I'm here because I am a roaring lion crying out righteousness. If you are at a point in your life where you may be going through an experience that's not a good one, or you may be expecting a good experience, or you may think that perchance something could happen in your life that could present a decade of bad experiences. And so you might want, and you just want to build your life in a structured way. I believe that Proverbs chapter 3 perhaps is one of the more significant chapters in the entire Bible. And because it says in essence, and one of the, first of all, it says, my son, forget not the law of God, which is this is very important. I've done so much teaching on the law being the template of Jesus, and that's a whole nother subject matter. But it says in the verses that we spend a lot of our time on, to trust in the Lord with all thine heart, to trust in the Lord with everything that you have, with all of your substance, with everything that you are, with every degree, that you may obtain or no degree that you don't have, sickness that you may have incurred. Trust in the Lord with everything that you are and everything that you hope to be. When Solomon writes, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, that's exactly what he means. He means with everything that you are. Even in your failures or your sins or your shortcomings or your infirmities, still trust him. Still trust in the Lord. And lean not to your own understanding, which promotes a lot of fear. It promotes a lot of, when you lean to your own understanding, well, this could happen to me and that could happen to me. And it promotes fear, and it also promotes infirmities. It promotes sicknesses. And by promoting fear, it stops you from advancing, because you say, well, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? Now, Jesus said this, and maybe he said it better than Solomon said it, but I'm going to say it as well. They're too powerful. Jesus said about thinking about what bad things can happen to you. He said, take no thought for tomorrow. In Matthew's Gospel, chapter 6, starting verse 33 or so, he says, take no thought for tomorrow. Sufficient unto the day. If you have today, that's enough. Tomorrow will take care of itself. So it's very difficult to say, well, I'm not going to plan for a bad experience tomorrow. Now, I'm not saying to you, don't plan if you're going to go on vacation, if you're going to travel, if you're going to go grocery shopping. You can do that. All those things they're non-essential. But don't worry about the bad things that can happen tomorrow. Don't worry about that. That's basically, I can't improve on what Jesus said. I'm not even trying to improve on what Jesus said or what Solomon said. I'm not trying to improve on it. If you're going to plan your vacation, I told people last month, a month ago, plan your vacation this year and for the next 5 years. So you do that. That's what Jesus meant when he said, take no thought for tomorrow, is don't plan for bad things to happen to you. Don't do that. Well, you're saying, well, don't take out any life insurance. I didn't say that either. What I am saying is that if you got today is good enough. If tomorrow's going to be a bad day, then deal with it tomorrow, but not today. Not today. Because what it does, it promotes sickness, it promotes infirmities, and it promotes fear. And you will say, well, I'm not going to do it because this is what's going to happen to me, and so forth and so on. Don't do that. I'm coming back to that. So Solomon writes, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, lean not to thine own understanding. Do not lean to your limited amount of understanding. I don't care how smart you are, what degree you have. Don't lean to your own understanding. But in all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths, which is the other thing. And then I'm going to tell you, maybe you've got a good life if you got some bad things happening to you, but the Lord will direct your paths. He will show you what to do when it's time for you to do it. He will show you. And the Lord may not be taking any thoughts for tomorrow. Don't lean to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and the Lord will show you what to do. He will direct your path. And on your darkest day and on your blackest night, God Almighty will direct your path. Trust that. Trust that. Trust it. And then there's one other thing I'd like to say, especially to younger people. You need to hang out with people like me. And when I tell you something, you just need to do it, whether you understand it or not. You just need to do it. You just need to do it, because I'm going to tell you something, and I'm not about the business of telling you to do something that's going to be wrong. And I have had enough experiences in life in terms of the total network of what does a man go through? What are some of the experiences that you have? What is the total cumulative amount of experience that a person will have? I used to teach, and I don't do this, but when I was teaching Accomplished Dreams, or when I was teaching the Men of the East or the Women of the East or the Vestal Virgin groups here in the church, and I was teaching those groups, I taught them that going back a couple of centuries ago, when the Ming Dynasty dominated most of China, including the areas of Beijing and Shanghai, the Ming Dynasty really ran China. It was a family, and their last name was Ming. And in the Ming Dynasty, while they had many provinces in China, in order to be a leader, such as a mayor or a governor of a particular province in the Ming Dynasty period, you would have had to have studied law and completed that study, medicine as a doctor and completed that, philosophy and completed that as a doctor, literature and completed that. You would have had to have studied those major degrees or major issues before you would be allowed to be a governor or mayor or in the provinces of the Ming during the days of the Ming Dynasty. Now, why is that important? Because what I'm trying to say to you, I'm trying to tell people, you really need to come up and listen to what I'm saying. Because the experiences that you're going to have in life, I've already had them. Please listen to me, young people. Please listen to me. The experiences in life that you're going to have, I've already had them. Now, you haven't had them yet, but I've already had them. I've already dealt with them. I've already dealt with them, and having already dealt with them and come out successfully as I stand before you or sit before you today, then I can lead you when you have that experience. Now, you may not have the experience until another 10 years. You're going to have it, and when you do have it, you'll have someone who has already gone through it. So when you are a young person, and I say to young people, come sit at my feet and listen to me. Don't think that I'm crazy. And the thing of it is this, being your youthfulness cries out that experience is crazy. Some will say experience is the best teacher. There's only those who've gone through experience. But when you're a young person, when you are a young person, your youth will say to you that experience is crazy. For instance, so young people come and listen to me because I've had the experiences that you're going to have. I've had them all. I've had all the experiences that you're ever going to have. And then the other thing you got to trust that if I give you some advice, I'm giving you some advice about an experience. I've already had the experience that you're going to have or that you're presently going through. And I would never tell you the wrong answer because I figured out what's the right answer for this particular circumstance. I've had those experiences. I've had them. We have a young preacher in our church named Jose Matos, and he was listening to Elder Salem the other day talking about his experiences with his wife giving birth to his first child. Well, what Minister Matos was saying is that when he was young, he didn't have the experiences that he now see the elder having, and he regrets it. And he thought it was crazy to do that at that time. He thought it was the craziest thing. So I'm saying to you, let me tell you something. Having me as your pastor, as your leader in your youth, there is no amount of money you can pay for my experiences. You can't pay me for my experiences. You can't. And I've had the thing that you're going to go through in life is if you live, you're going to have the experiences. But I've already had them. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge God, and he will direct your paths. I have already had the experiences I am more valuable to you if you will have enough sense. If you would have enough sense to say, and by the way, this just isn't for young people. It's for older people as well. This invitation to let me be your teacher, your guide, your counselor, your lawyer. I've had those experiences. I have had them. And one of the reasons that Jesus came, in addition to the salvation of humanity, all of those who plead the blood, was to experience what we experience. And not that he couldn't do it existentially, but for us to know that Jesus suffered the way we suffered, that Jesus hungered the way we hunger. We know that, and we can relate to him. So it is very important that you lean not to your own understanding. In all your way, trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him. So here's a man, Pastor Manning, who's had most experiences that anybody on the planet has had. I've had some semblance of wealth. I don't have it now. By the way, y'all can send me an offering. We need to put a new heating system in our building, and the oil company that services our building sent us an estimate the other day that the oil to put a new mechanical heating system in our building will cost us $70,000. And we are not going to get a brand new roof at this present moment. But to repair where we are right now on this nearly 200-year-old building will cost at least $25,000. That's $95,000 we're going to need by October. Send me an offering. But I don't have wealth now. I don't have it now. Not in the terms of the way I had when I was out in the street and running around and robbing and stealing the way I had. That was ill-gotten wealth, and it didn't last very long. But however, so listen to me. If you have been rejecting me because my experiences seem strange or seem odd to you, I've been beaten by the police. I can tell you this, all these people jumping up and down on television and talking about police brutality have never themselves been beaten by the police. They just see it as a philosophical, political, way to advance their own cause. They're really not interested in telling young boys when the police says stop, stop. The police says put your hands on the steering wheel, put your hands on the steering wheel. They're not going to teach that because that doesn't give them any opportunity to speak at funerals that's carried by CNN globally. Well, they want to be able to speak at that funeral. They're waiting for the next person to die so they can fly around in a private jet and go and get treated up in a nice hotel and then get to speak to an audience on CNN and MSNBC carried around the world. Tyler Perry will say, take my private jet. This is how awful the police did to this young man. The preacher, take my private jet and fly there, and I'll take care of all the cost and everything. Well, every time somebody gets shot by the police, these preachers get an opportunity to live that lavish lifestyle. So they're not going to tell you the truth, but I've been beaten by the police and by a whole gang of them, and sent to the hospital. So I've had that experience. I've sat down in the White House with the President of the United States. I've had those experiences. It is very important that you listen. Take the time, and even in your older age, there's some experiences that you've already gone through and made a mistake because you leaned to your own understanding. But even now, at this present moment, you really haven't matured to the area comparable to your age. So therefore, there's some experiences yet you ought to have that I can teach you if you will humble yourself and accept me as your pastor, as your counselor, as your lawyer, as your leader. If you will accept that, then the experiences that you're going to have, I can give you the counsel. Jesus says take no thought for tomorrow. You got today, deal with today. Worrying about tomorrow will produce fear and will produce ill productivity. Sufficient unto the day is good enough. Solomon writes, lean not to your own understanding in Proverbs chapter 3. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. I'm saying to you, if you will humble yourself, accept me as your leader, accept me. I've had those experiences. I've had some experiences probably that you're never, ever going to have. But I've had the ones that you are going to have, I guarantee you, I've already had them. And like in the Ming Dynasty teaching I did many years ago, and I'm thinking about rekindling the men of the East. The Vestal Virgins are doing okay, but the Accomplished Dreams class, to go back to that, I've had every experience you're going to have, I've had it. There are a number of people who have never, that you have as a leader, who have not had the experiences. And if experience is the best teacher, then you want the person with the best experience. For instance, I've worked on the chain gang, right? I've been in prison. You show me a preacher. Let's say you got, well, I like brother so-and-so or Reverend Rabbitfoot as my preacher, but he doesn't have the experience that I have. So therefore, he's not as qualified as I am to be your pastor and your leader under circumstances. Has your pastor ever been in prison, worked on the chain gang? I mean, actually worked on the chain gang? So a man was standing over with a shotgun, yet he's now a pastor preacher. I've had that experience. I've dealt with that. That changes a man. That makes that if a man, listen, if you see me, talk about others, your preacher probably hasn't had very many experience of anything. So therefore his life abilities are very limited. You want someone with more experience. And let's say, for instance, you have a doctor, you have been diagnosed with a cancer or some disease. Is that right? You've been diagnosed with a disease. And when you go to the doctor, you want the doctor with the most experience. You don't want a doctor who just got out of school or a doctor who has had very much experience at dealing with cancer. You want the doctor with the most, you want that gray-haired doctor with the horn-rimmed glasses. You want the man with the most experience. You're the same thing for your pastor. You want the pastor with the most experience. Let that other fella grow and get the experience that Pastor Manning has. And then maybe you want that doctor, when you go to that cancer, that diagnosis come forward, you want a doctor with the most, you don't want a lightweight. You tell me what preacher you know that has worked on the chain gang while at the same time has acquired and attained a master's degree in divinity from the most prestigious divinity school on the planet, Union Theological Seminary, who has spoken at Oxford University in London, in England, or in Oxford. These experiences, you want a pastor, you want a counselor, you want a lawyer who's had these. So if you humble yourself, submit yourself to me as your pastor, your counselor, your lawyer, and humble yourself, the things I'm going to say to you are going to sound crazy because you have not had the experience. And youth says to you, experience is crazy. Until you get it, then you'll say experience is the best teacher. But if you're a young person, you loathe old people. You think they're crazy. And the reason why they seem crazy, it isn't they seem crazy. You're crazy because the things that you're doing are crazy things, such as Minister Jose Matos, who didn't go to the hospital with two of his wives that were giving birth. That was crazy. That was crazy. Somebody tried to tell him he shouldn't do it. He thought that was crazy. Now he realized that was the best thing. But when you're young says experience is crazy. And when you're old, you say experience is the best teacher. So if you got a pastor, listen to me. Listen to me, because I want to tell you something here. You want to have me as your pastor, as your leader, because of all the experiences I have had. Like the Ming Dynasty, you can't become a leader unless you know law, medicine, philosophy, literature. You could not be a leader in the Ming Dynasty. You could not lead the Chinese people unless you had those experiences. Your pastor, or even the people that are a counselor, don't have the experience that I have. And let's say, for instance, you're listening to this, and I'm going to do a teaching further on this, and when we get to, if I can get there to the Open Rewards prayer meeting, and I'm holding a prayer meeting about this, and I'm going to do some things in just a moment that are tail ending from Saturday's worship service. But Solomon writes, lean not to your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him in Proverbs. Jesus says in Matthew's gospel, he said, take no thought for tomorrow. If you got today, it's sufficient thereof. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't plan your vacations or you shouldn't plan your meals or plan, this or that or the other. That are really worldly things. What he's saying is don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry. Don't worry about tomorrow. Let me give an example of this. That we've had a foreclosure case going on now. I guess for the last couple of years we've been fighting it. And I have what was once the city of New York or the Mellon Bank bringing me to court. I have now turned the corner and taken them to court. Listen, I could not have gotten to that point, and really no one that I talked to told me that I could turn the table on this matter. No one told me that I could turn the table rather than them taking me to court. Why don't I take them to court? I didn't know I could do that. That has added an extra power. That has put some bricks in my knapsack. I can tell you that right now. I didn't know I could do that. And though I talked with a myriad number of lawyers, none of them ever broached the idea, why don't you take them to court? Until a young man came down from Boston and said to me, why don't you take them to court? Now, I have to say as well, we're presently in court, and I don't want to have fear or take thought, but I do want to express something. I've given this matter another year and a half to be completely resolved. And there are going to be court decisions going forward. Some may be good, some may be bad. I've looked at, I don't worry about this or that or this judge or that judge at this present moment. I've gone ahead and said, well, a year and a half from this will be resolved, because a year and a half ago, I didn't know I could take these people to court, to trial, to court. I could bring them to court. I didn't know that. So I'm not worried about what decision this is going to happen tomorrow, who's going to make this decision, what lawyer is going to do this or that or the other. What I do want to say is that no lawyer that came into my purview had the experience to tell me, Pastor Manning, you can take these people to court. Now, there are plenty of lawyers out there that would know that, but I didn't have any most of the ones I had contact with were not experienced like this. So you want to be able to submit yourself to me as your pastor and say, well, the experiences you've had. I mean, and you've heard many of you who know me over the years, my experience in terms of running the streets, being a gangster, being a thief, being a liar, going to prison. My experience is working as a marketing manager or agent for Procter & Gamble, which was a very prestigious position. Marketing for Procter & Gamble, having a company car, and having my housing paid for by a major multinational blue chip corporation on the stock market. I worked for them. I worked for Ford Motor Company. And then, of course, I worked in the street, robbing and stealing. I once drove a gypsy cab. I was a cab driver. They call it Uber now. It wasn't that then. And I grew up in rural North Carolina. I posted up the other day I tweeted out the fact that I started a school. I'm going to start a school. And the school I started, the graduates have gone on and been accepted at Yale, at Juilliard, at New York Law School, Cardozo Law School, New York University, Fordham University, St. John's, Pratt Institute. Who do you know? Has your pastor ever done anything like that? Are the people that you're taking advice from, do they have that kind of experience? Everything from the chain gang to driving a gypsy cab, right, to working for Procter & Gamble, having started a school and sent students into law school, into medical school. I've done that. And so when I come to you to talk to you, you need to listen to me. You can't reject me because you got some crazy, wild idea that's stemming out of your youth that says crazy, crazy, crazy. And but moreover, I stated that I'm a sharecropper's son. If you don't believe me, I got a man who probably you'll believe. His name is James Honaker. And you probably believe him. He says, I'm a sharecropper's son. And I am. I grew up walking barefoot most of the first 10 years of my life, plowing a mule. Somebody asked me the other day, and this is only for those who understand that. He says, is that plow you're plowing a single hitch or a double hitch? Now, you have got to go way back. I think we can pull up the picture of that, Mr. Engineer. You got to go way back to find out what a single hitch and a double hitch plow is. I did plow a double hitch from time to time, but most of the time it was just a single hitch. But I plowed a mule. That's right. I grew up. People talk to me about racism and about Jim Crow, and you can't talk to me. Not even Dr. King can talk to me. I grew up in what was segregated South. I graduated from a segregated school. Don't be trying to talk to me about the black man, about blackness. You don't have any idea. That's why my ideas and my thoughts seem crazy to all these racist black people. And black people, by the way, are the most racist people. If you can get rid of black people, America would have peace in the valley. It's black people. I'm telling you the absolute truth. I know they're going to get me a lot of angst. If America got rid of all these black people, all white people would have peace with one another. I'm telling you the absolute truth. Black people are the most racist, problematic, government crumb snatching. Black people are terrible. And the higher they go up in their education to Harvard or to Yale, which is where we send some of our students, the worse they become. They take that diseased blackness, that diseased racism to the highest level. Then they get put on platforms on MSNBC and CNN and professors at Harvard, professors at George Washington University, and they take that racism to those platforms. But black people are the most racist people, but they don't understand that. But you can't talk to me about that racism. So I'm saying to you that if you accept my counsel, if you're young, it's going to sound like it's crazy. And that's what youth said. Youth says experience is crazy until you get experience, and you say experience is the best teacher. So Solomon says this, and so does Jesus. Mr. Engineer, pull up Matthew's Gospel chapter. Find that verse about sufficient unto the day. Take no thought for tomorrow. That's in Matthew 6. I don't know the exact verse of it, but I'll sign you to do that. But Solomon says, lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him. And Solomon writes from this perspective. He says, my son, meaning that you're younger than I, take no thought, follow the law, keep the law, and it will give you good understanding. It'll bless your heart. It'll give you favor with men and with God. Solomon writes. And he says, honor the Lord with your substance and your first fruits. And to be honorable with Almighty God about your money, your only honor system. I think this engine has found the scripture. Jesus said, don't worry about tomorrow. Take no thought for tomorrow. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow shall take care of itself. Don't worry about it. So here's what I've done. I've decided that going through the process of the foreclosure that we're in right now is going to take another year and a half. And there may be some ups and there may be some downs. I've decided, don't worry about tomorrow. I've gone ahead and taken away tomorrow and said, well, it'll take another year and a half before all this is finally solved and resolved, and we'll move on from there. But not tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Solomon says, and the way Solomon says it, and Jesus says it better than Solomon. Let's put it that way. Let's give Jesus Solomon says, lean not to your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him. In other words, don't worry about this or that. You get the idea. So now here's what I want to do, having said that. By the way, we need to raise that $95,000. And the other thing is now that I'm the lawyer, we may have to acquire another lawyer just to do some things for Bethelite. Now that we have a lawyer, I don't have to start talking about lawyer expenses. However, I will ask you at some point in time to help me find an attorney that could represent Bethelite, because the courts won't let me represent Bethelite. Now, there are a lot of things I can do on behalf of Bethelite or on behalf of myself that will affect Bethel. But the courts will not allow me to represent Bethel. So at some point in time, I'm going to have to go and plop down a retainer fee, and I'll talk to you about that. Not now. What I do want to talk to you about is I need to raise this $95,000 to get this new mechanical system in before it gets cold here in New York, and because it's a heating system. But here's what I want to do. I want to turn a corner for just a second. And I want to, we have been doing the old Daniel Vision to Vision, and this is old Daniel Vision to Vision number 4, Captain Lewis. But I plotted out, in my heart and spirit, looking at what happened to Daniel there in Babylon, that the devils, God, he prayed and God answered. God sent the answer. And the devil caught the answer and held it for 21 days before Michael, the angel, came and fought with the devil and took the answer out of the devil's hand. And so one of the segments that I will do, in segment number 3 of this teaching, will be, has God sent your answer, but the devil is holding it up? Has God, you prayed for whatever it is you're praying for, but the devil is holding it up? That's number 3. And number 4, segment number 4 is, when will your Michael come? For Michael was the angel that fought with Satan, the prince of darkness, and shook loose the answer. And then segment number 2, after vision to vision, my vision of ATLAH, Daniel's vision of God's blessing for the people in Babylon. Second number 2 is mechanism, and I'm going to get to that, but not today. The Lord let me get to it. I got to wrap all this up. What I want to do now is wrap up some things that I left from Sabbath worship. I could redo them on this coming Sabbath, but today, in terms of when I'm doing this, you may be listening to this a year from now on a Wednesday afternoon. But today is Monday. Saturday is a long way off between me and the Lord and the Holy Ghost. Between now and the time I'm going to pray every morning, I'm going to talk to the Lord every day. The Holy Ghost is going to lead and guide and direct me. Between now and Saturday, it's like 1,000 years. So I may not even be here on Saturday. I may be someplace else. I may be down in Cape May, New Jersey, someplace out on the beach again. By the way, I showed a picture of my people of me being on the beach down in Myrtle Beach, fully dressed. I want to take off my clothes. I don't show my body, I don't know. I'm just not into that kind of thing. But I think I scared the people to death. Here's a man out in the beach with all his clothes. He's got on his pants. He's got on his shirt. He's not in the beach. Everybody else in bikinis and short pants and swimsuits. And I am on the beach. I think I'm not going to do that. At least I could take off my shirt. That wouldn't be too bad. Y'all wouldn't mind looking at my punched out belly. Is that right? So I think next time I go to the beach, I'm going to take off I'll keep my pants on. But anyway, so here's what I want to do. And then I'm going to let y'all go, so I figure I got something else to do. I want to, I was teaching Saturday about the greatest prophecy since Jesus spoke, I'm going to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place, I'll come and receive you unto myself. In my Father's house are many mansions. So what Jesus said was that I'm going to prepare a luxury house for you. Not a shelter, not just a regular run-of-the-mill place where you can be comfortable. He said, I'm going to prepare a luxury house for you, a mansion. That's where he put it in. Now, I cautioned, I said that I wasn't going to talk so much about the luxury, but I wasn't going to, if you will, stymie what Jesus has said, because I didn't want it to seem like a prosperity message. But Jesus said, I'm going to prepare a luxury mansion for you. Is that right? Elder Butler. Jesus said that he's going to prepare a luxury house for you. He said a mansion. Now, Moses in Deuteronomy chapter 6, and I'm going to ask the engineer if he'll pull that up, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 11, Moses said this to the children of Israel. Now, Moses is 120 years old, and he's been hanging out with the Lord for the last 80 years in the same place, in a desert. Moses, at least for the first 40 years of his life, lived in a luxury house, so he knew what it was. But the last 80 years of Moses' life, he lived in a desert. So, he tells the children of Israel, You're going across the Jordan, Trans-Jordan, and you're going to live in houses that you didn't build. You're going to live in cities that you didn't build. And the houses that you're going to live in are going to be luxury houses filled with good things. You see that verse 11? It said, in the houses full of all good things, which thou fillest not, that you're going to be living in that. Now, there's a place, leave that there, messenger. There's a place here in New York City. Well, let me not go into, I was discussing something with Sabbath earlier today on the phone about a hotel. Well, let's just leave it as it is. But Moses said to the children of Israel, and by the way, these children had never lived in a house, right? Now, this is a wrap up from Saturday. These children, these Israelites, well, they're not Israelites, I don't use that term because think about these morons running around here. These sons of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob that had been slaves had never lived in a house. They lived in tents. They have never in their lives lived in a house. Well, maybe a couple of them did, some of them, but most of them had never lived in a house. They was getting ready to go across and Moses said, you're going to live in houses, not tents, not in the desert, but you're going to live in a house, something they had never lived in. 30 years old and never lived in a house, lived in a tent. And said, and then Moses, now this is Moses, people got to be looking at Moses like, what on earth are you talking about? You sound like Pastor Manning, Moses. And these houses are going to be full of good things, which you didn't put in them. But they're going to be good things. And this is the thing that got Moses in trouble in the wilderness of Zin, where he struck the rock, and the rock brought forth water, almost drowned the people. So much water came out that rock the way Moses struck it. And he was angry, but he said, you're going to drink from wells, which is something that they didn't have in the desert either. They didn't have any wells in the desert. There was a place called Elam where there was some water with 70 palm trees and 12 palm trees or something like that. At any rate, so Moses says that you're going to live in these houses, luxury houses, right? So let's get this right. Jesus said in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 14, that in John's Gospel, chapter 14, that I'm going to prepare a luxury mansion for you. Moses said, once you cross Jordan, you're going to live in luxury houses. Now listen to this very carefully, Elder Butler. Listen to this very carefully. And he said that Pastor Manning, that's me, says that ATLAH means that the members of ATLAH are going to live in houses that are luxury houses that they didn't build and that they didn't furnish. But ATLAH comes that they're going to live, that the members of ATLAH are going to live in luxury houses. Brother Jesse Munoz, listen to this. So check this out. When you help us, and many of you don't live here in the community formerly known as Harlem, but God has changed the name of this community to ATLAH. You don't live here, and perhaps some of you never will. But when you help us, when you financially support or you join the ministry or we have a special conference or you'll use your vacation day to come to the church, when you help us, you help bring the vision to pass. But listen to this from Saturday's message. Not only does the prophecy of ATLAH say that the members of ATLAH are going to live in luxury houses, same as Jesus said you're going to live in luxury houses, same as Moses said you're going to live in luxury houses. But the prophecy of ATLAH says that there's going to be a luxury place. When Jesus comes back, he's going to return to ATLAH, which is going to be a luxury place. Now, just put that in your pipe and smoke it. Think about that for just a second. Think about that. And when those of you who will listen to me, who can help, you can start by sending financial gifts. You can start by giving to us, automobiles, or you can give houses, or you can give land, where the Baptist preacher did down there in Tennessee. By doing that, you further and hasten the vision, and you further and hasten getting ready for Jesus to return. And one of the things I want you to do, I want you to understand that Jesus has assigned me to prepare a place for him. This is from the Sabbath message. Jesus has assigned me to prepare a place for him, right? Now, of all the things that you know about me, you know that I am faithful to ATLAH for 33 years. I am faithful to ATLAH, Elder Smith, for 33 years. Jesus has assigned me the responsibility of preparing a place for him. Now, listen to this. The place that, when you look at, think of the what's the word I'm looking for? Think of the craziness of the Hamite people and also Japheth people and Shemites as well about having a black president, how racist they were. Think about the racism that is in the churches, in the so-called black churches, the black preachers, the black politicians. When politicians, black Hamites, that's who they are, but they call themselves black, run for office, they don't run for office about building a new Hoover Dam or building the Tennessee Valley Association or producing a brand new electric car or producing this, that. When black people run for office, the only thing they run on is racism. They don't run on building a manufacturing or, or raising this or finding a cure for cancer. That ain't what black politicians, when they run for office, they're running on one thing. We racist. We racist, we black, we racist, we want racial equality. That's all every last one of them, whether it's mayor or whether it's president or whether they race. But suppose, do you think, now listen to this very carefully, do you think that Jesus would call someone who out of every word out of his mouth is racism? Do you think Jesus would trust someone to prepare a place for him who all he does is talk about racism and about race and about this and about that, and then contradicts the Bible, contradicts the fact that the Bible said the Jews were going to be slaves, contradicts the Bible that says that black people were going to be slaves, now they're Hamites. All they do is contradict the Bible all day long and never look to the Bible, never look to the Lord, never look to God for whatever might be their problems, and never tell themselves the truth about how wretched black people are, how decrepit they are, how unproductive they are. Do you think Jesus will call someone to prepare a place for him that talks like Al Sharpton? That's the devil's servant. Al Sharpton serves the devil. He and a whole lot of others. He ain't the only one. He's not the singular one. But think about it. Think about the racism that's in black people. We're black president. Our first black president. We black people got to stick together. Let me tell you something. Jesus would not send someone who preaches that kind of preaching. He wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. He would not do it. So the experience that I have, if you will listen to me, I can show you how to have a good life. Now, you can live the way you're living. You're going to keep on messing up. And by the way, I'm not just talking to young people, but older people as well. You're going to keep on messing up. You're going to keep on messing. Pastor Manning crazy. That man crazy. We don't understand that. That man crazy. Let me say something to you. You have an opportunity to have me as your pastor, one who's worked for Procter & Gamble, a major marketing firm, paid good money, worked for Ford Motor Company, also worked on the chain gang, was a thief, robbed people's houses, been beaten and left for dead by the police, hospitalized, graduated with a master's degree, have started a school and sent children off to the medical degrees and law degrees. Does your pastor have that kind of experience? Does your pastor speak from that depth? Does your pastor have that? Does your pastor have that ability? Does he have that understanding? When you get that cancer diagnosis, you want a doctor who has had some experience, not some young neophyte. You want somebody with some experience. Treat your cancer or anything else. Even your lawyer, you want someone with experience. Who do you know? Well, think about it this way, and I'm going to let y'all go. Who do you know that has had more experience at life and life matters, at leadership and spirituality than James David Manning? And that's me. Who do you know? Who do you know? You may know an older pastor who's maybe in his 90 years of age, but he probably never worked on the chain gang. He's never been arrested and beaten and left for dead. Or he's never worked for a major marketing corporation, a blue chip corporation. Who do you know? So think about what you're throwing away when you throw me away. Think about that for just a second. Think about the potential that you can have in terms of being guided. Now, if you decide to have me as your pastor, submit yourself, you're going to have to do the Sabbath thing. We ain't go that Sunday route. I'll tell you that right now. You have to give that up as well, because that's the work of Constantine. That's not a poor misapplication and interpretation of the writings and teaching of the great apostle Paul. Sabbath deniers. But you're going to have to give up a lot of crazy, crazy stuff. And it usually takes about, 7 years. See, I said on one of my cards I sent out some time ago, I said, give me 7 weeks of your time and I can break poverty in your life, heal your sickness, baptize you with wisdom and power. It should be actually 7 years of your life. Than a card I put out some time ago. But this is where we are. Here's where we are. Now, Minister Holnaker wrote a song, and I'm going to stop playing the song after a while. I may even play the song he wrote called Tennessee Whiskey. I don't know if Minister Holnaker is listening, but he wrote a song, Tennessee Whiskey. I'll tell you that. I've been thinking about playing that song, Tennessee Whiskey, by Minister Holnaker. I don't get any copyright problems. You know how they hate me on YouTube and Facebook and throw me off all the time, put me in jail, and like they did some time ago. But anyway, he wrote a song, and the song he wrote puts it in lyrics. By the way, Jimmy Buffett died. Did you hear about that? He puts in lyrics the thing I just talked to you for the last 40 minutes. Pastor Madden, he talks about my experiences. Because y'all probably wonder why I play that song so much. It's just a message. You accept me as your pastor. That little old guy you call a pastor, I wouldn't walk across the street to hand him the New Testament. Doesn't have an experience. I mean, here's a man, James David Manning, with a wealth of experience. And the decisions that he makes seem to you to be crazy because you're young or you're inexperienced. So remember that youth cries out and says experience is crazy. But once you have experience, you realize experience is the best teacher. So I'm a better teacher than that pastor you got. I'm a better teacher because I have greater experiences than he or whoever. I'm a better one, and a far better one. Not just better, but far better, because if experience is the best teacher, you don't know anybody. You don't know any politician with the experience that I have. And that's why God chose me. That's why God chose me. And not only that, that's why God put us through that. And the other thing is, I think that I want to give a shout out to Virtuous Rita, who just returned from Rome, from Tuscany, from Florence. I want to give a shout out to her. She said to me after listening to the Sabbath message, she said, God let you go through all those things to grow you, to give you an experience. She's absolutely right. Virtuous Rita. She's absolutely right. She's right on point on that matter. You don't know anybody who's had the experiences that I've had. And I'm here today, a healthy, good-looking young man, right? Your pastor, your political leader cannot hold a candle to the experiences that I have had. Therefore, I'm the best teacher. I'm the best you're ever going to get. I'm the best you're ever going to get. And I'm going to say things to you that are going to seem crazy to you because you're very inexperienced. And youth says that that experience is crazy, or whether the age is crazy. Not age, but that experience is crazy. But age says experience is the best teacher.